Okay, hello everybody. My name is Hendrik Adrian. You can call me Rick. I will do the talk about the fileless malware and process injection in Linux, specifically in the post-exploitation point of view from the blue teamer's perspective here. And I'm a security folks by day, working in the Cyber Emergency Center in the CERT of the LAC. And I built with another good people. We found malware mistake as the activity after work, and these are the list of the community give back that I did so far. Well, I have like 150 pages for the 45 minutes, so I have to make it fast. It will be shared within the circle, within the HACKLU later on, so you can download it later. And then the other activities is in the first, so we are trying to build a good stuff over there. And recently, with the MISP, we successfully to push the ICS into taxonomy. So it will be a great for development to more better place in the internet. This is my signature in the internet, so it's very easy. And this is explaining about my daily work, like every day. So I'm 30 years doing this sport, so I found many ideology that is very applicable for the security. So I'd like to introduce some of them to you in this slide. The contents is like this, the backgrounds, and then we'll go to the post-exploitation basics, and then going to the process injections, capability in Linux, frameworks that supported it, and other components, and then how to defend ourselves. Well, I try to be as open as possible. I like open source very much, so it has to be a Dennis Ritchie behind this first slide, but this picture is covering it. So why Linux and why post-exploitations? Linux is still the most influenced operating system that we are having now. It's everywhere, in-house, in clouds, in outer space. So we cannot say that Linux is so open, so that is so bad. No, this is just a flip side of this popularity. And Linux executable schemes is so varied, so supporting many execution scheme and scenarios that when something bad happens, the executable detection ratio is not as good as Windows, and there is a poor part of it. Linux operated device can act as many adversary scenario like a payload delivery host, proxy, etc., etc. And then it supported the Linux platform for the post-exploitation frameworks. So Linux is great in design, but has a little bit poor in the implementation because it's too wide to cover. Has a little low detection for the malware compared to Windows or Mac now. And then Linux is actively sold in the market as per it is with a vulnerability in touch. And limitation for the reverse engineering of the Linux kind of the badness codes is very limited. And thank you for the Radare teams in the audience now. They are really making a very good job to make some reverse engineering easier. And we tried to make several examples for handling this part, but still a lot of things that has to be done. So hopefully this presentation can be used as a security awareness for this matter. Hopefully, to make the Linux becoming more and better implemented and protected in the security, we are trying hard to make this cycle going on in the MMD. We do the research, sharing it, educate it, and then regeneration. For the regenerations, I'm doing a lot of the lecturing in my country, in Japan. So within 1 year, I committed to make 5 to 7 young reverse engineering, and so far we are making like 18 young reverse engineering with hopefully having my equal skill. So for 3 years, so I need to work harder for that. And then all of the posts that I wrote in the malware mistake was me analyzing stuff, and then all of the report are there. Frankly, I probably better to write something than to talk like this. It's very nervous. And then some achievement is recorded in the wiki by another members. all of the Linux malware research is posted in the Reddit as a repository to explain to exchange the previous that was be done in another platform. So this is the stuff that I'm doing so far, doing many kind of the activities. So what this talk is all about is about the Linux security on receiving instruction to run malicious code in the compromised system, with highlighting the fileless injection process and framework supporting the process. And from the blue teamer point of view, I'm not a pen tester, I'm not a red teamer, I don't know how the red teamer is working. I'm dealing with the stuff and reversing, that's it. So I'm not using the material for my work, but I'm using the material that we handle as a MMD in these cases, so no other environment is being shared without permissions. Let's compare our strengths. I'm a blue teamer, so I have to know about the red teamer. So I make several connections and have a conversation and seeking about what the blue teamer in my team is all about. And what I conclude so far is we reverse threat better. But we mostly are hammered by the tons of the incidents, so we pick stuff, we get lazy, and we don't have much energy anymore to do a very good research for it. And many systems to protect. It is very hard to do. We guard probably better, but yeah, for the red teamer, as you can see in the right side, is they probe and pound better for this. They are pretty active and innovative also in the R&D and tooling. So, in my point of view, probably we are doing OSINT better, but they are doing the OPSEC better. So it's a very hard balance that has to be made here. So hopefully, by this slide, I can have another blue teamer in this room to be more motivated and then to know about their strengths, to start from the skill set that you're really good at. First, learn in the Kendo is never open your weakness. Pen testing or red teaming is going like this. In the control environment is an activity that's involving the usage of the various tools and techniques to assess and audit systems. That is a concept, and it is supporting to the Linux operating system now. In activities of the exploitations, gaining executable access, information collecting, and so on, up to the persistencies, and then these methods are really supported richly from the various online documentation, and this is a strong point. Post-exploitation framework was built to support those activities in infrastructure to make assessment the whole process to be more efficient, but sadly, adversaries knows about this too and make a use of it. So why it is so applicable in Linux? Because of every scripting environment is all in there. Research said that 60% of the Linux boxes is online with vital roles like gateways, NAS, and so on. And vulnerability management in online Linux is really, really very hard, especially the cloud is there now. There are so many IoT to take care of, and there's so many instance others too. And all can be scanned online. So post-exploitation framework is becoming popular method in the recent threat attacks now, and then Linux focus post-exploitation framework are developed well too. So the attacker doesn't have to, like in the era of the King Code, for example, we have to exploit everything with the Perl. I like him very much. Right now, everyone can just script stuff and do the post-exploit framework to inject something to the targets. Then let's try what we are doing the best here. I'm choosing the OSINT probably. In legacy, we have to understand what post-exploitation is all about and what they can do. So I make a breakdown from my desk work here. Like first, they are taking the blind files, distribution checks, no histories, system information. These are a very usable command that is actually working. Install package lists, networking, configuration files, accounts, credentials, seeking important files, reverse shelling, get the root, covering tracks, and so on. The slides will be shared. It's just very good for you. So don't worry, it will be downloaded from your site, so you can use it later on. Now get to the point. Through those kind of the capability, we are having, why don't we just script them all instead of using it command line by command line? So scripting for this post-exploitation exists, and it is built to be a framework. This framework, as per you know, is in the interpreter here, like a check VM in mconfig R script, actually, and then you can just pick up what you need and then run it. And it's getting better, if you see in the couple track here. And now, what we have is open source leak of the post-exploitation that's supporting Linux. Within 7 years in AMD, I saw the many Linux system got compromised by these tools. So I just pick it up and then make a list of it. Most of them are in the GitHub. So I'm sorting them from the favorite and fork up there to the not so many popularity down there. But this not explaining that the unpopular ones is not being used. So it's very colorful, but you're gonna like it if you really doing the pen tester. Now, we are talking about the cheat sheets that support this knowledge for it. In previous era, we are having the pen test monkeys, kind of the know-how for the post-exploitations and exploitations, and then people are starting to gather those stuff all together to the awesome pen testing as a list here. And now we have a very good guidebook, ebook, many kind of documentation for the cheat sheets that being used to penetrate some things. And the know-how is getting better. Like offensive security here is contain the very good recent information about those stuff, and we are having this one too. This is all available in the internet, and adversaries are seeing too and implement several tactics to do the same. Not only that, infrastructure is becoming the last evolvement from the frameworks. Why not? The attacker, as an attacker, and there are Linux boxes everywhere. They can make a jumper, proxy, forwarder in many ways. These are some commands that can show you the capability, and there are some more for the tunneling and another proxy tools. They are making it for the ELF, written in the Go, written in the Python. For example, there are so many tools about that. I'm not going to share it in these slides. The quoted redirector are placed in the front of the post-exploit framework server C2 to discover the resilient purpose to quickly burning. Probably you will think like this, kind of the infrastructures, as we are seeing many times in the pentest labs. But actually what happened in the wild over there during the attack or incident is going to be like this. It's a very complex operation is going on. The attacker is up there and we are down there. They are having a many kind of these are the scanner, payload servers, and the C2 server are here. We're not so sure about the C2 server. Can be 1 or 2 frameworks over there. And everything is proxying, routing, and redirecting. This is actually the scheme that we are battling. But less and less of blue team are knowing about this. So we are thinking about this kind of the infrastructure all the time. So the situation is not so good. And then, many times during the incident, my boss is calling me, where do we are right now? And the situation is never good. Second lesson in the Keynote, never ever let your guard down. And what happened is you got injected. Remember the stuff that you're good at. In my case is this. It's not applicable about my reverse engineering if the radar team is not there. So big applause to the radar team, which is supporting to us very much. Then process injection, by definition, is a method to executing arbitrary code to the address space, either in the process of memory or in the kernel space. That can be possible. This is according to the MITRE attack. The purpose is to learn malicious program, not to leave any traces to the disk and be evasive and undetected. In practical, it is used in many kind of the exploitation and post-exploitation framework for it. In Linux, it's like this. First, we have to know that the code injection method is using the injection in the RIP addresses, mostly being done like that. And the tracing software is being used for it. Mostly in the Linux, there is a ptrace or can be wrapped in another software like a GDB, DBX, etc. to control the process flow and then enumerate the address to inject after the state of injection is gained. It is very important. Second, shared library executions can also be injected to the memory. Well, common ways to do that is using the LD preload is either going to be the command line, or you can call it LD preload in the shell, or doing the LD loader as an open stage, DL open mode. Third, code injections to the address of the main function in the running process. In this stage can be done, but not every not every process is running from the main function. So some preliminary execution probably messing up with the analysis. So the other stuff is using the techniques of the ELF injection. During the execution process, ELF can be used for to load something, to execute something in the memory space too, but that it can be used for the injection, but it is very complex. I'm not going to use it now. Another one is as per vulnerability testing, buffer overflow method can be used to inject the code directly to the stack, which is having the NX mode is on. NX is executable. And the worst part is the combination of this all. For the ptrace, it has so many ways, like in the trace me, for example, or you can set option to set the register values to make sure which base of the injection that has to be made. And then the favorite one is using the interception of RIP, or set the register point to the RIP. Interception RIP is good. You have to set firstly about the values of the RIP there, and then after that it will be executed afterwards. Set registration to RIP. You also using the set registration, and then grab the values and then point it to another RIP. Then you can detach the processes, and then the execution of the shellcode can be run with that way too. Well, basically, it's something like that with a ptrace approach. Real incident started. Incident number 1. What's wrong with this picture? Probably. Well, we don't have that much time. So this is a kind of the stuff that you have to look. There is a bogus date is running and listening to the 444 TCPs. So this doesn't look very good. So all you have to do is start to check on it. Is it fileless? There is no file that related in the file system about the bin date. Bin date is like the legit one. So we have to think about something is wrong. Well, you can go to the memory based off what written over here in the maps, and then start to attach with a radar, and then you can find the ELF header is there, and then you count the header in the precise way with this formula. You can know exact size and dump it and start to analyze it. The other one, okay, after you analyze, it's gonna be like this. You can go to the entry 0, blah blah blah, and start to analyze. Or you can go straightly to the memory and then just seeking about the main part. But I'm not recommend this hot analysis because of probably anti-debugging scheme can be worked too to prevent you to doing stuff like this. So in the memory address, in the date workspace, there is a shellcode running like this. So this is the result of that connection. Probably not sure. I'm a forensic guy, so. Probably something is wrong. There is no clue what it has been injected with. So I have to figure out with a forensic ways, and then I'm using the sudo Linux for the DFIR, and then there is a cool tools called test disk, and then we just make a hot forensic of the system and find there is a binary called injecting over there being deleted, recovering it, and finding this is the binary itself, making analysis for it, and there is 2 blob of the data being loaded. One is the stop, one is the shellcode. Shellcode is like this below. Sorry for this pointer, and with the exact data like this. So this looks like the loader for this shellcode to the memory. The loader itself goes like this. The injecting codes looks like this, and then the ptrace is used to gain the state of memory injections, and then will be injected to the memory afterwards. Then the shellcode has the stop and the shellcode part. The stop is to make sure that it has to be forked, and then if not, it's got to be exit like this. And if successfully forked, then it will start to do the opening the socket, doing the bind, sys listen, and then the accepting connections. Then afterwards, it will parsing the data and passed through the sh command over bin sh over there to be executed. So this is a very simple stuff. And after reversing it further to find that it's a very common bind cells, and then well, nothing so interesting about that. But this is the point. After you're handling the case of the injection, the reverse engineering is a must, because you have to know exactly which state of the intrusion that has been made so far. So in this case, as per written over here, we can see that the date program was forked because of the cell code, and it will not stop binding if bin sh is not being executed. But the program is still listening to the 4444, so probably the further intrusion hasn't been made yet, and then the sysadmin is successfully disconnected from the internet beforehand. And then the Linux on-memory analysis is very important. In each memory injection case, you can do a on-memory hot analysis for the injected process case like this, but you also need to understand that many kind of the possibility can happen if you are doing the hot analysis for the binary in reversing. So this is a sample of the legendary injection scheme. Digging further is coming from this tool. So it is like this tool is happening there, core parasite, and this tool also is served in the GitHub. I regenerated it to find a more forensic clue that what I have to seek in the disk or in the memory further, and find it like this. It's matched to what's going on with the concept of the injecting through the ptrace. So that's gonna be it for the first case. Second case, you know honeypot, doing honeypot, you know Kipu, you know Cowrie. There is a core directory over there containing the manuscript that can simulate all of the command and the systems. And this attacker is doing a heavy implementation to hack a researcher's honeypot and putting some processes over there. What is wrong with this case? Okay, make it short. There is a bogus called bus.sh over there. And then there is also a library called ldUcclib.so. I never heard about ucclib.so. ucclib.so is there, but it's not with this kind of pronunciation. So, and then checking further with the memory maps, it having in the same PID. So probably you got the fileless injection over there if you don't have it the sample in your hands. So the bogus bash sh is only doing the looping here. And then I go straight to what library is there, and then practically library.so shared object is also made by ELF, so you can define the header by the radar command. Thank you for the Majin who's showing this command during the ArcticCon 2018. And then yeah, and then you can calculate the header to make a size of the binary and dump it. After being done, make it short. This is what happened. It's parse everything that incoming to the bin sh to be executed. Now, what do we learn in the second case? Not only static or dynamic ELF binaries, but module, shared objects, shell codes can be injected to the process. Hot forensics is good, but you will need the cold forensic too. See the number 3? This is actually the command being used for the injecting that library to the system. So it is doing the cold forensic. I can find it in the swap out area that being saved into disk as a cache. This is a file case, yes, because I cannot find this command that I don't want to say it. And then this is one of the example of the fileless ones. Another one is attackers tend to inject something to the decoys as much as possible because of you can inject stuff to the SSH, the bash process, but they don't want to mess too much, and they don't want to make much alarm. If they have time actually going into the system and erase all the history and finding out about how to camouflage the decoys and the injected code to your system. They can do almost everything. So going to the OSINT mode, we know this is coming from the Linux inject, and this is the command actually. Try to regenerate it again and find that this is the actual sequence by the tracing. This is actually the syscall being used. It's using a ptrace and being injected to the memory. Ptrace-based process injection that I handle so far is coming from these sources. It's all in the GitHub. There's so many of it. So this will be shared, you will see, and I sorted also from the favorite and the fork numbering here. So it's stuff that you will have to care about. The other injection is a share object. We are talking about a good example here. We had the Mayhem framework before in the Linux. So it's coming from the Ukrainian attacker. And then they are using the LD preload to use to inject malware to share object to the kernel to perform the intercepting of the syscall. It's almost fileless because they have to inject it anyway through the PHP interface to the system, so that one is not fileless. Well, shortly, the thread is using the LD preload command to load the Mayhem installer shared object to the memory and intercept the syscall to download the payloads, then they go back to the real call afterwards. This is the code. In case for you to try to demonstrate by yourself, you can compile it and run it, and then you will see this kind of a message appear. Now, notable process injections, which is using the very known methods. These methods are not yet found in the incidents, but has a big potential to be used by adversaries. Combination method and scripting is used, so the level is very high. Skillful attacker or framework builder can make this very good use for them. First is a Sector 7, pure in-memory code injection inside. It is a known concept that's being used in memory only injection with clear samples over there, but it is using the Python. Once you are using the Python, every command line that has to be executed to run the shellcode can run in the memory space of the script process. So you will not you cannot find it in any kind of the forensic for that. If you're lucky, you can swap it out. But there is a very difficult for that. And for this purpose, Python, Ruby, etc. can be used. Another one is a Gotham Digital Science is making a Linux-based inter-process code injection without ptrace itself. They are not using the ptrace for it, but they are instead counting the proc maps and proc mem for it, and then using the LD preload ways to overwriting the stack. So the stack. So this is a very combination way of the not using the ptrace, but using the ptrace concept to hook the right address to be injected, and using the LD preload concept, and then combining it with a vulnerability exploitation for the writing the stack stuff. I'm recommending you to try this. Another way to inject the shared object to the memory is using this research. It is using GDB as the armor of the ptrace, but it is using, GDB as an armor for the ptrace, but actually it's a ptrace is running, okay? So then but it is using another concept to inject to the memory with libc functions called DL open mode. This is actually what the Linux inject is trying to implement here. There are so many assemblies code. I'm sorry about that, but this is the part that actually being injected there. You can see the function of the injected shared library is being called. Well, thank you for the megabits. Last night I just installed the Ghidra, the compiler in the MyRadar, so I don't need the Ghidra anymore. Then this is actually the library that's being called. It's called the inject shared library functions, which is actually opening the DL open mode to make an injection of the memory possible. It is plain clear here, and you can see it in the internet. Now we are going to the sophisticated fileless process injections. There is a combo between the open memfd create send file and fxxcva. So what's wrong with this picture? Come on, guys. You are blue teamer, okay? Try hard. Harder. No? Okay, this is what's wrong. There is this ping is running, but in a very wrong way. As you can see, no one is pinging with this kind of the port, and ping is not using the TCP protocol by the default. So maybe something bad is going on. So there is a bogus object called A in the RAM disk. Where is it? Down here. Oh, sorry. Come on. Go away. Well, okay, here in the bottom. There. And then the bogus ping is connected to the remote host. The ping and the A is related in the one PID session. So if you see it clearly with the file and the stat, the result is going to be like this. It's showing you exact execution, the data stem over there. And then the namespace of the A and ping is not in the same workspace, so meaning that the execution of this two file is having a lag. And ping was executed a few milliseconds earlier. So we are assuming that the ping dropped A via these connections. Is it fileless? Let's take a look. A becoming, after being reversed, it is only a bin sh binary. And then what happened is the A1. A is ping is not ping, but a back-connected parser to execute the remote port with parsed block from the data from the remote, and then to be executed and to be saved and executed as A in the RAM disk of the Linux. So below is the IR process to cook this incident. This is what actually happened. And over here you can see the SHM is written with data and then saved as a file called A. So what is this scheme is all about? It's back connecting, receiving data, save it to the RAM disk. Is it work? If this is executed 2 times, so probably the adversary can affiliate the save in the RAM disk A file and then try to execute it again in the RAM disk. So is it another post exploitation? Maybe, but maybe not. Conclusion, I conclude that the preliminary analysis for the further forensics and probably that attacker is not gaining much connection for this scheme. We don't know about that. So let's focus to the OSINT for it. Finding that actually this droppers is being used. So I try to regenerate this dropper to the Linux in the process in tracing, and then finding out that this is what I really want to see. Another concept is using the memfd injection for the time for the temfs for the RAM disk, as per we discussed before. But this concept is now becoming evolved. Right now, it is wrapped in the Perl, and then also becoming the de facto safest fileless injection framework in the FireElf, which is built in the Python. So this is a very nasty one, and then you can find the trace of the binary over there. We are really in the bad situations. Okay, there is another cool stuff. Injector without using the libc, bypassing ALSR, and supported the multiple argument. Called, I'm not so sure, it is in the French language, call it mandible. So mandible is basically find the executable section that can be injected itself to the memory first, and then inject itself with that enough space under 50 kilos, and then attach it to the with a ptrace, and then back up the registration state, and then back up the executable section too, and then inject the mandible code in there. After that, mandible will load the file to be injected to the designated spaces or process in the memory, and then if the injection is done and becoming exit, mandible will be unloaded from the memory. So the concept is very good. So you will not see, you can bypass the ALSR by doing that in the current Linux, and I tried to many distro already, and then unless you have to make a strict setting for the SE Linux, probably you'd better try to test about these tools into your system. Behind the skin of the reversing mandible is this is a source code actually that being reversed. You will see stuff like that. And after you got injected, you will see stuff like this in the radar. And this is actually the part that the injection being done. The injection for the mandible is done by the PT loading here, and the concept for the injection is using the ptrace. It's not that savvy, but pivoting for the ALSR and then using the pi for the compiling tools for this tool is really making a real mess to what happened in the current process injection. This is with the Ghidra. The result is like this. It is very beautiful. I like it there. So the pro and cons about the mandible is a pivot of the injection is a pro, successfully compiling it with the phi, make a lesser libc usage, becoming lesser trace in there, and we don't know how the payload gets in the memory of this if this going to the post-exploited framework. This will be a very, very bad news. Harder forensic because so many changes that has to be taken over here, and then below is in the yellow color is a command line that actually can be done with the mandible. The cons, in this POC, they are using ptrace, but what if memfd is used, and what if another one is being used for making this injection happen, then it will be very, very bad news for us. But don't worry, I'm omitting the ptrace stuff, and all of the injections binary, I compile it with a pi and then I code it with a Yara rule like this, and it's very becoming detectable right now, so you don't have to worry about this, and I shared the rule already in the Yara rules. So there are so many people are asking, give me the binary, give me the binary. I don't give them the binary. I give them the rules instead. So you have to compile it by yourself, but if any IR folks who would like to know it better, please directly make a contact to me. Last chapter. If you are prepared enough, the better your chance will be. Well, this is only for the blue teamer, so you have to know about the cell codes and where they are generated. You have to know about the cell, back connect, bind cell, reverse cell, etc. cells. And you have to understand about the process injection, already explained, privilege escalation, payloads, and persistency, and then another one is post-screen. This is the checklist. For the cell codes, this is a good checklist for you to try to seek. And then I recommend to try the Venom and try the packet storms provided cell codes and try to compile it and reverse it. And try it. Otherwise, you will never know. Next. This is the concept of the wrapper of the cell code I reversed by the radar. Most of the cell code that you receive from those sites can be seen as per this. So you just have to focus to the below ones. This is the wrapper scheme. Then the Linux payloads have so many variations, and then they are persistency installer, rootkit, backdoor, rat, cultivations like manner botnets, whatever. And then it's going to be a very different topic in the malware parts. I want to talk about the privilege escalation a bit. We know that the privilege escalation in the as a root in the kernel, as exploitation is happening, weak setting is making that happen, other vulnerability is making that happen too. But I found a lot of privilege escalation in Linux is causing by the GTFO binaries. This binaries listing in this site is often used a lot for making the escalation to gain the root access by the adversaries. And then some of the cases are successful, some are not, and some are not who are the users who know how to implement SE Linux well. So this is the stuff that we have to really, really concern. Then several advice. Well, as a blue teamer, hopefully that this presentation will give you a better stand to handling the post-exploitation in the Linux environment in the future. Many variation of the Linux distribution devices and services to support and to polish with a better policy, which is very hard, but we have to try to do it. Firewall is a black hole. You cannot block what you don't know first. And then if you are getting some kind of the injection and make an outbound and get the inbound, you cannot make a rule of it because you don't know. So forget those. But we have to make a scheme to kill the chain of the attack instead, by knowing each component of it, like this, to break down. So ICS is a different obstacle. We need to sometimes to run the debugger under the ICS. I'm in the ICS base of the cert, actually. And I'm putting the radar in the many kind of the small devices. Don't say to me about this IoT, so I'm going to skip it. Clouds, I don't know. Better for you to prepare to do the hot forensic instead getting the image to be analyzed later on for the cloud environments. And don't shut down the machine if you got the incidents, and don't scan it too much, because you're going to ruin the forensic afterwards. And then sharing your readiness for the community is very good. Blue teamer steps in handling process injection is going to be like this. Be resourceful, and use independent good binary that you're very good at. Investigate, as per I explained before. Probably it will be a good start for you to handle this kind of the post-exploitations. 3 things that you have to bear in mind about being blue teamer is that we break codes better first. Then we can, we have to regenerate it. We have to make sure that we know it. We don't have to worry about the quantity, but we have to make sure about the quality of our analysis that can be used. And everything has to be well documented afterwards. And prepare. I want to share everything, but there are so many bad guys are following, for example. So you have to learn how to do the OPSEC. We're not so good in the OPSEC compared to the OSINT, but we have to try this. For the user, there is a list of this that you can share to your users, to your customer, to your protected networks. So it is a mini advice here, so probably it will be useful for you. I'm not going to say it one by one. And for the operating system itself, probably ptrace access has to be more secured here. And then the ALSR can be bypassed. We have to think about the not letting friendly process injecting another process without the interaction for the user or the operating system to confirm. And then the Linux is designed as a secure OS, but not so many people are using SE Linux. These are the reference. First is read about what kernel is all about. It's a very good start for you. I will update this presentation with ton of the list afterwards before being downloaded to you. It will be a share. You can ask the Alexander over there for the access afterwards. And that's it. Thank you very much for having me in the HACKLU. And many thanks to a lot of good people who's supporting this community back efforts of the Mastai, and then to the Radari too. And for the audience, if you find it useful, please block your own injections and share it to the community, and see you in the next year HACKLU. Thank you very much. Arigatou gozaimasu.
Hi, I know everybody is smelling lunch and etc., but are there any questions in the room here? Yes.
This is actually not a question as much as a tribute. I've been talking to you on Twitter for many years now, and I must say that your tweeted live dissection of malware on request by desperate community members is and has been really highly appreciated by a lot of people that I know. So thank you for your tribute to the InfoSec community.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you very much.